Welcome to another episode of Medicare Industry Insider. I'm Jalen Jackson.
I'm Rachel Bremeyer.
And this episode, we are going to talk a lot about something we've been getting tons of questions on, something that we've got a lot of agents doing very successfully, and hopefully this will help you do it successfully as well. We're going to talk hosting events. So obviously, as an agent or an agency owner, you are always looking for ways to share information with current clients, find new prospects, and do both of those things a lot faster and more than one at a time. So hosting events can really help you with that. It can help you get the message out to current clients a little faster, introduce you to new clients, and it creates that low-pressure environment for everyone involved where they can decide if they want to work with you. So events can create kind of regular activities for you that are easy to invite people to. They make networking a breeze, and they can just be a really good way to generate buzz around your business, as well as being highly visible in your community.
I think in addition to that, we've seen a ton of people trying to figure out with this year's Inflation Reduction Act, with the higher cost for Medicare supplement, with all the changes to the final rule. There's just so much going on in our industry this year that trying to figure out how to meet with every single client is difficult if in a normal year. So now in this year, trying to consolidate, meet with more people in bigger groups is even more important than ever. So this is why we decided, in addition to always having events and always being a good idea, this year more than ever is a great time to actually host an event that you can tailor to specific situations, that you can get in front of groups that maybe you can knock out multiple sales or get a message across to multiple people that you wouldn't have to repeat yourself over and over. So we're seeing events being a huge, huge boom, basically, that we're getting a lot of agents asking about how do I host them, compliance, what type of events could I host? So basically, we're going to go ahead and cover a whole bunch of different types of sales events and kind of the why behind bringing different things. But it allows you basically to see large groups of clients, remind your community of all that you're doing on a regular basis, cover important topics to mass numbers of people. It's a really good way to get referrals, like finding friends or bring a friend. It's a social activity. We have some agents and agencies who already are hosting regular events, and they always comment that it's a social gathering that half their clients really look forward to and want to bring their friends to, and then grab coffee or drinks or restaurant meals afterwards. So a good way to gather new people. And then, of course, just larger sales appointments equals more opportunity to get in front of different people.
Absolutely. So we want to talk about two big categories of events that we see commonly, and I'm going to go a little off script here because we originally said we're going to talk about sales event versus non-sales or educational events, but I really want to talk about it in terms of registered events and non-registered events, because there are some sales events you can do that don't have to be registered. For anyone who is panicking and about to comment with the number for the compliance police, hold off just a second. I promise this will all make sense in a moment. But talking a little bit about sales events, if we want to talk products, specifically Medicare products, if it's something that requires a scope of appointment to sell, it requires registration as a sales event. If you want to be able to collect a scope of appointment and take an enrollment application, talk about a specific plan and that plan's benefits. So one of the most common ones are, we see every year, you may partner with a carrier. They've got a hot new plan in your area or a hot old plan in your area, and you want to drive some enrollments. So you might do a plan-specific event to drive enrollment, or you might do an ANOC meeting, a meeting to go over those annual notices of change, segment folks out by carrier. That way you can roll through all of your clients carrier by carrier to go over the changes, and then use that as an opportunity to set future appointments with anyone that needs to make a review and get people taken care of and feeling heard and seen if they don't need to make that change. Another really common one on the sales event, the registered event side, is the booths, whether that's a pharmacy booth during AEP or certain other booths. And really, when we're talking about a booth, one of the key things I want to get across is what activity do you want to take place? If it's a pharmacy booth where you're planning on taking apps, collecting scopes of appointment, setting future marketing appointments, those need to be registered as sales events. If it's something like, say, a public awareness event at the county fair where you're giving out swag and, helping people out with things, just getting out in the community and marketing your business in general, not collecting scopes, not taking applications, not setting future appointments for Medicare products. Those would not necessarily be registered as long as you follow all those wonderful rules.
I think I'm picking up what you dropped down of if basically that you require a scope or a sort of product details regarding Medicare, anything you need to certify for. So Part D or Medicare Advantage, those have to be registered. If you're doing a sales event, like let's say you want to talk about cancer insurance, that would be a sales event where you collect an application, but you would not have to register that.
Exactly. So those are great ways to go into some of those non-sales events. And Rachel, I'll let you take those because I've talked more than enough for a moment.
Need a drink break.
Yeah.
So non-sales events, there's a lot of opportunity with non-sales events. I think one of the most common ones that you can do on a regular basis is a Medicare 101, which would be to collect new clients, or if you want to talk to your current clients just to make sure that they don't call you in the middle of AEP going, oh my gosh, I saw a $0 plan or a gym membership. What the heck? I wanted to go. Why didn't you talk to me about this? Sometimes having those regular Medicare refresher, so you could always name it as a Medicare refresher event. That way you can get in front of your current clients and it avoids some of those extra panic calls during AEP that you can avoid. Another one that is really good and very, I think it just allows you to branch out and you don't have to register them, but a caregiver event. Usually a caregiver is a female, usually mid-50s. A lot of times they're taking care of someone who is Medicare eligible. But the nice thing is now you're gathering a future client, a future prospect who is desperately looking for help and a lot of times have those POAs and they do all the power of attorney information for their parents. So giving them caregiver-specific events allows you to branch out a little bit, teaches them how to work with Medicare, understand things like discharge paperwork, and of course, if their mom, dad, spouse, whatever that they were taking care of was denied care, they have a resource for you through you. So it's a really good option as well.
Absolutely. So again, another great one that is a sales event that does not need to be registered or any complementary or ancillary products. We're talking hospital indemnity. We're talking cancer insurance, long-term care, short-term care, home health care, dental, vision, hearing. You can do seminars and events on all of those products, sell on the spot, and walk away with a lot of great new clients. And none of those need to be registered. Still need to follow all of your normal marketing rules. And if someone does want to meet later about other products, you will have to schedule that at a later date and time, not during the event, but you can collect those applications. And then just talking a little bit about what I call kind of Medicare Plus seminars, how Medicare works with either different health conditions or different other health insurance, Medicare and diabetes, Medicare and veterans benefits, Medicare and federal benefits, Medicare and durable medical equipment, Medicare and Medicare Plus. Those are great product-specific or situation-specific events to throw. Because here's the deal. What you want to do with an event in general, I love Medicare 101s. I think they're a great way to get your feet wet if you've never done an event before, because it's information that you probably already have memorized like the back of your hand. But I will say they get old fast, and I really don't think doing them more than once or twice a quarter makes a lot of sense. It's these Medicare Plus, these other events that help you segment your audience. If someone shows up to a Medicare and diabetes seminar, what do you likely know about them? You likely know that they probably either have diabetes or care for someone who has diabetes, that this is a concern of theirs, that they're going to have specific needs that you can present stronger and more specific solutions for when you do that presentation than you can during a Medicare 101. Same thing, Medicare plus veterans benefits. Someone shows up to that, you know that they are likely a veteran or someone caring for a veteran. And again, they have specific needs and issues that you can present stronger solutions for than you can in that Medicare 101. So these events are a great way to segment your audience and make sure that you can tailor that message more effectively to drive sales.
I love that too, because it also creates you as like a resource in your community. It adds a little bit of validity to what you do. But there's also tons of resources out there on CMS. Like you can go on to Medicare.gov, look up publications, and there are so many things that you can utilize. that you don't even have to start from scratch. You can use something that's already there out in the world that's compliant, that's CMS approved. And that's actually what we recommend with a lot of events is like, don't make your own stuff. There's so much out there that you can utilize and do, like those Medicare Plus seminars. Seminars are also good for networking demos. So if you're trying to get in front of a professional that maybe you've been always wanting to get in front of, a lot of times, we're from Missouri, the Show Me State, but a lot of people want you to show them what are their clients going to experience, what's the feel, are you going to be pushy, what are you talking to them about? So giving them a demonstration of your event is wonderful because then they get to see you in action, they get to hear what you do, how you do it, what knowledge you have, and that usually domino effects pushes them into wanting to send people over to you because they get probably tons of questions all the time and they need someone to give that over to. And then other catchy things is always things that are taking things away. Like, what does Medicare not cover? You could do like the 5 things Medicare won't cover, or the 5 gaps in your coverage that you aren't aware of or you don't think about. So like any sort of catchy, like taking things away type seminar always is good too. That allows you to talk ancillary products and fill the gap ideas that person may not realize is a gap in their insurance as well.
All right, let's talk compliance. I know we brought that up a little bit earlier with some of the registered versus not registered events. So again, just last reminder I promise that we're going to do during this episode, but if you need a scope to talk about the product, it needs to be a registered sales event. If you want to collect scopes, if you want to set appointments, if you want to take enrollments, it needs to be a registered sales event. If you want to talk about specific products in the Medicare space, Medicare Advantage and PDP specifically, it needs to be a registered sales event. Otherwise, it is educational, and you should be fine to continue without registration, including all of your ancillary products and general education seminars. But always keep an eye out for those secret shoppers, which are employed by CMS and by the carriers to make sure folks are staying on the right side of the line. So if you there's really nothing to be done. If you do enough events and do them long enough, you're likely to get a secret shopper. Don't try to worry about identifying them, keeping an eye on them. Don't expect them to be extra sneaky or anything like that. Just continue doing your presentation like you always would, as long as like you always would is compliant. And then you shouldn't have any issues.
A lot of times they give you red flags because they'll ask questions that most seniors probably won't ask about, like, what star rating is this plan? Like, most seniors are probably not going to ask that question. So every once in a while, you'll kind of get a red flag, like, this person's not actually here to work with me. They're here to secret shop. Some little housekeeping things in terms of compliance. Make sure you've done any additional certifications. If a carrier requires it to host an event, there are some carriers that do have extra certifications that you do need to take before you can register your event. All registered events are done through carriers. So if you need help with that, we're happy to help. But every carrier also has a walkthrough. They're the ones who actually register your event with CMS. So pick one of your carriers that you do certifications for. They all have ways that you can register that event. And it does not have to be that carrier specific. If you register with that carrier, they are just reporting it to CMS that you are doing a sales event. And then in addition to that, if you are wanting any extra tools, carriers always put out tons of good tools of like what you can and can't do when you're doing events, little job aids per se. That's actually what UHC usually calls theirs, the job aid. But all carriers will have information out there as well. A lot of times it does show up also on your certifications. So,
yeah, absolutely. So I'm going to combine a couple of things. We're going to talk a little bit about where to host events, but I'm going to jump ahead half a second and kind of combine that with when to host events, because I think they go hand in hand. So it kind of depends on the type of event or seminar that you want to do, but obviously some basic things no matter what. If you're going to host an event, it needs to be in an area that is familiar to people, that is easy to find. You also need to consider, is it accessible? Is it ADA accessible if you have folks with disabilities or access issues? Are you going to need to bring any equipment with you, AV equipment, tables, chairs? What does the venue already have? What are you willing to bring, able to bring financially, so on and so forth? And then, is transportation going to be easy for folks? Are you going to be able to, if you're in a metro area, is there bus station, train station, subway, taxi stand, whatever? If you're in a more suburban or rural area, is there plenty of parking? Is there, ease of access? But in terms of when to host, I think this is a big discussion of, is it something that's a regular event or something that's more of a special event?
Right. So that is important to kind of look at. Is it something specific, like maybe you're hosting a booth at a state fair, or which you can do those regularly every annual year, or senior expos, a lot of times those are annual, or you wanting to do something regular to get in front of the community. So I like that you're kind of combining when and where. But when, I think it's important to get your name out there regularly. So doing something like a Medicare refresher, or like I love the Medicare Plus idea of doing those regularly, then you're able to get in front of your community on a regular basis. But then you also think, okay, is this a ANOC event like we discussed, where you are going to have to do a registered sales event, but people really need that information. So is it going to be something that you regularly do? I think regardless of what direction you go, it's about setting expectations with your clients. If they are expecting you to do an ANOC event every year, it's really hard to not do one in the future. So making sure that if you decide to commit to something like this, that you really do commit, and you focused on making sure that it is something that your clients either do or don't expect.
Yeah, and so those last couple points really drive into that where to host. So if you are going to try to do regular events, and kind of a schedule that I really recommend to folks is do them at minimum twice a month, because I really like to see agents do like an evening event, so maybe like a 6 p.m., and then maybe do like a weekday or even a weekend at like a 10 a.m. That way you can catch folks that are maybe still working. You can catch those caregivers that may have a job, but you can also catch folks that want to get out on the weekend and have some extra time on their hands. So looking for, can you host an event there regularly? Is this a one-off thing, someone that maybe doesn't normally rent out their space, but they've got an opening? Or is it somewhere that you can consistently schedule those events so that you don't have to jump around? Because as we'll talk a little bit later about how to market these events, consistency is going to be key. And another great way to look at it is, can you find an audience that is already there? So something like a church or the Elks Lodge or the VFW or the Red Hatters, are there audiences available to you that roughly fit your demographic that already meet? And in a lot of cases there are. It may not be a permanent solution for you. It may not be a long-term solution, but is also another great way to kind of cut your teeth and get some seminars and events under your belt, by finding those audiences that are already there and just attaching yourself to that audience once or twice a year.
I know we'll get to this a little bit later with marketing, but having those regular events allows you to talk about it so much easier too, because on the back of your business card, or in addition to your business card, you could be giving out information on those events with anyone, and it's so much easier to invite someone to an event than it is to ask someone blindly, coldly, do you want to be my client? So it's just an easier way. If you've got something regular, it's an easy way for your networking partners to refer people to that event. It's kind of a less hard sale, because then they go, oh yeah, if you want to learn about this, go to this event, opposed to, oh, you should work with this person. And that really puts their reputation on the line. So it's a lot easier for someone to refer their clients to an event opposed to working directly with you, which that segues very nicely into our next topic, which is about networking and who you should share your event with. We talked about several of these already, but with like the Elks Lodge and churches and VFWs, but to expand even more, there are so many different directions. We'll throw a handful out, maybe 20 different ideas, but there are so many different fun, unique ways to talk about your business with different networking professionals. And it's a really good way to exponentially grow your business, because then you can kind of count on, 1 to 5 people from this referral partner every month or whenever. So it's a nice way to grow without a little bit of organically, without having to constantly find people one off. So we have other insurance professionals like P&C agents, crop insurance. There's a lot of different other agents. I think the biggest thing with that is making sure that if you say you won't write a particular life insurance or a specific thing, even if you offer it as another branch of your company, that you specifically made that clear with them and you keep that promise. I think that's going to be the biggest thing, especially with reputations in your community. Attorneys are great. There's a lot of attorneys who work with seniors, whether it be elder law or estate planning. Mortgage loan officers are constantly working with individuals buying houses, assisted livings. That also goes back to like low income housing or 55 plus communities. There are so many different directions you can go on housing developments. You can sponsor an ice cream truck. You can have a little parking lot party with, bubbles and checking people's blood pressure in that community because you already have people coming in, driving into their community. So lots of different things you can do with housing.
Absolutely. And there's so many. Listen, again, check the show notes that we definitely totally have, as Alex mentioned a couple episodes ago. But we've got so many different people on this list, but just a couple more for reference. HR managers or employers, business owners, folks that may have folks retiring off that group plan, libraries, senior centers, and just look for places where people hang out. Look at those hair salons, nail salons, golf courses, RV parks, anywhere that offers a senior discount. Great place to pop up a flyer, leave some business cards, and market these events. So we already talked a little bit about when to host them, where to host them, who to invite, or who to try to get to invite. So let's talk a little bit about marketing as well before we get into some of the details of actually running the event. So for marketing, there's obviously a lot of ways to get the people to these events, and it kind of depends on what type of event you're hosting. If you're running something like, say, an ANOC event, obviously that's geared towards your current clients, segmented out by carrier, but the bring a friend attitude is always the right attitude to have. Standing room only is the best possible problem you could have, and I promise it won't happen very often. So encourage it. Bring friends, bring family to every event that you host. So getting the message out to those current clients through email, through text, through phone calls, letters, networking partners, always a great option. There are tons of services out there that will help you generate leads or people to attend your seminars. So if you're looking to just draw in random prospects, people you don't know, that's always a great option. Also another great option to look for, again, those local resources that you can post this information, whether that's those churches and Elks and social clubs, or it's your Chamber of Commerce, or any number of places that you can get that word out. Even try to get on local media, whether that's radio, TV, newspaper, writing an article for the local newspaper or doing a 2-minute segment of Q&A on the local radio station can really help drive turnout as well.
I would even say I've had some people who've even posted on like neighborhood Facebook groups, or if you know a realtor who's willing to help you out, they have this incredible email network. So there's a lot of different directions you can go in terms of social media network and email networking. But I wouldn't downplay just when you're out and about doing your regular things. If you're at a soccer game, if you're at a restaurant, if you're at a bank, have a little packet with you. That's one of the things that really drives, because then you're like actually knowing that you invited like 10 people or collected data from people. But if you have a little packet that has maybe a piece of candy, your event information on it, your business card, maybe a medication tracker, or some sort of resource, it's so much easier to hand that
business
to someone.
That'll let you leave them there.
Absolutely. Business.
Don't be walking up to people in public. We know that's not compliant,
yes,
but if you've got a local restaurant or someone that'll let you sponsor a candy dish or something like that, that can be a great way to get in front of a few more people. Anything to get the word out. But again, lots of strategy that can go into online marketing, different media marketing, and we've got some great resources around that in our Seminars in a Box toolkit. But let's talk about actually doing the event from setup to sale and all the way through that process. Getting the event venue set up, going in ahead of time to make sure your tech is going to work, making sure that everything's going to go smoothly, making sure that if you needed, you've got some signage, some ways for people to find which room you're in or where to go, depending on your layout, and then just having all of your media put together, whether it's a slide deck or a handout or business cards, permission to contact forms, optional sign-in sheets. There are a lot of things to get ready before folks ever walk in the door.
Absolutely. So everything from like light snacks, that is one thing that we did want to specify. It goes back to compliance, but $15 or less per person. So making sure if you are having any food there that you're sticking to the actual amount. And then, of course, using pieces that are already available, like CMS pieces that are publications. I love that you mentioned the technology side too, because sometimes that can get pretty pricey if you are hosting a location. So double check to make sure that they're not going to charge you extra for like power strips and, anything that you have to do to present your piece. But
charged extra for Wi-Fi.
Yeah, Wi-Fi is another big one. So like be careful with that.
Well, and I would make a quick note on technology, especially if you're doing a sales event. Make sure that you have technology-enabled equipment that is going to allow folks to enroll seamlessly at that sales event. So I've seen it from everywhere from, agents that'll go out and buy 25 Kindle Fire tablets for $50 or $60 a piece, and they'll be able to pull up, a personal URL or a shopping link for clients, or they might try to host an event at a community college computer lab, somewhere where they've got all of those computers set up and ready to go. But make sure that if you're going to try to do those enrollments in person, that you've got the technology to do so. Of course, you could use a paper application, but I will only judge you very, very severely for that. There are plenty of great tech solutions that make that not necessary. So use them while you got them. Make that investment in yourself and your business, or make sure that you're using a venue that has that technology capability.
100%. So those are mostly like any type of event that we just went over. Let's dive specifically into a booth, because there's a lot of extra things that you have to cart with you if you are hosting in a booth. But one of the biggest recommendations to get the most bang for your buck with a booth is not sit behind the booth and just wait for people to come. Yeah. It's to actually get in front of the booth, interact with people, have something that they are interested in grabbing, like candy or over-the-counter things like Band-Aids, Advil, pens are great because people can grab those. So little things that may attract people to your booth.
Yep.
But the big thing is making it appeal and making it look nice. So having different dimensions, maybe having things on different levels on your booth. There's things that a lot of carriers have that you can purchase, like pull-up banners.
Yep.
That'll add a little bit of dimension to your table as well. So there's a lot of extra things that you can do to make those actual booth tables look appealing and look like something that they want to come talk to you about.
And be doing something. I think that's one of the big things that people, that stand out front and interact. Make sure that you are, following all of your compliance with not, approaching folks when you're not supposed to, depending on the type of event you're doing. But make sure that you're doing something. Maybe, and it seems weird, but yes, check email every now and again. Rearrange your papers, stack up your things. Heck, learn how to juggle, but be doing something to kind of draw attention. It doesn't matter whether you're an insurance agent running a pharmacy booth or if you are selling crafts at the county fair. That activity helps drive connection with people, and it helps anything to, again, it's just that pattern interruption. They're walking by, you want them to stop. Even for that split half a second, that's enough to kind of start engaging someone in a conversation and get them to talk to you a little more. There's a great list of things. Again, UHC has a huge job aid on pulling together an event like this. So lots of great lists. We've also got some stuff on our toolkit for events on the different types of things. Mm-hmm. Biggest thing I would say is if you are going to do some kind of giveaways, pins or, knickknacks or things like that. One, if you're going to use carrier branded things, make sure you're requesting those well in advance from your local carrier rep, your FMO, whoever you need to go through for those. Or if you're going to do things with your own branding on them, which I highly recommend, make sure you are ordering those well in advance and always order more than you need. Custom branded items like that, promotional products, are always cheaper in bulk, and the more that you get, the more incentive you will have to continue doing events to get rid of them all.
Yep.
Because nothing is worse than having cases and cases of ink pens and jar openers and back scratchers and whatever else you want to buy sitting in your garage taking up space. So run events until you run out.
Yep, and have resources that advertise you, not just carriers. I think that's another big mistake a lot of people do is they use a carrier branded things and they don't put things about themselves. So putting together like quarterly newsletters that are on your table, medication trackers, magnets, things that have your information on it. I had one agent do those little mini Kleenexes.
Yep.
And they put their information on the back, and they got calls for like years because people just stick them in their purse or put them in their car, and they hang on to them, and they're like, oh yeah, I remember meeting that agent. So things that maybe people will hang on to and pick it up later, and resources like the medication tracker, usually those go in people's purse or wallet, and they hang on to it. So things to advertise yourself on, whether it be a booth or an event that you're at, is really important to make sure that you're talking about yourself.
Absolutely. So with all of those, let's talk about what you should try to get out of this event. And again, it's going to depend a little bit on whether it's a sales or an educational event, registered versus non-registered. But at the end of the day, we're going to talk about both. If you are doing a registered sales event for Medicare products, obviously you can take those scopes of appointments. You can set future marketing, individual marketing appointments. You can even take an application at those. Definitely want to have those available for folks if they would like to complete them. Of course, completely optional, but at those registered sales events for Medicare products, want to be able to take folks all the way through that process and really get them into a frame of mind where they are comfortable enrolling when it makes sense for them. But even at those educational events or those non-registered sales events, like for ancillary products, there are still some things we can do. While we can't collect scopes of appointment or set marketing appointments in the future for Medicare products at that educational event, we can collect a permission to contact with someone's opt-in. We can have an optional sign-in sheet, but want to make sure that if we're running one of those non-registered sales events for the dental, vision, hearing, the cancer insurance, things like that, we can, again, take folks all the way through the process up to that sale.
So let's talk through follow-ups, because obviously we talked prior about who to host them with, how often to host, where to host, what to say during those events, what type of events. You have to remember the follow-up. If you forget the follow-up, I think a lot of the effort and time and money you put into it is null and void. So the follow-up is just as important as planning the event, doing the event, marketing the event. So when you follow up, what are things that you can be doing? One is making sure those people who are at your event know what the next steps are. One of the biggest ones is making sure that they have your contact information. So you can either have it up on a board somewhere, have cards that they can pick up. Again, if it's not registered, it's an optional thing. You shouldn't be forcing people to take your business cards. But having some way to contact you, to follow up with you, saying out loud that they can follow up with you and why they should follow up with you, I think is important, because sometimes it just doesn't click until you actually ask people for the next step. Maybe it's another event that you have coming up that you can invite them to. That's another very soft sale if it is an unregistered event. If it is registered, you can go a little bit further. You can collect those scopes. You can try and make a sale or make an appointment. There's a lot of things that you can do to push them to the next step if it is a registered event. But I think another thing is just recapping the entire event afterwards, sitting down by yourself, or if you have a team member who is there, did you hit your goals? And I think we failed to mention that in the very beginning, but setting goals of what is the purpose of this? How much does it cost? Is it worth it? So then recapping your goals at the very end, looking at cost per acquisition with your clients. How much did it cost you? Is it worth it? Do you think you can get more the next time? Would you advertise that differently? And then I think the biggest thing that we actually do quite a bit with any event we host is recap what worked and what didn't work. And then you can make
the next one better. Yeah. How to make the next event better, for sure. And I think, with that kind of in closing, we've got a lot of great ideas on which events to host, when to host them, how to host them, where to host them, why to host them. And I hope what you've taken away from this is that events, whether educational, sales, registered, not registered, can be a great way to grow your business. And again, that idea of seeing people in bulk this year more than ever, but every year, is going to be incredibly important for agents that want to do business efficiently and effectively and help the 64 million seniors and Medicare eligibles out there that are going to need help this year. We've talked a lot about what this AEP is going to look like. We're expecting 45 to 70% of people on Medicare Advantage to need to make a plan change this year. Mm-hmm. That is on the low end, 14 million people that may need to make a plan change, and you are just one agent or an agency and you're going to need a lot of time to see
We're in that
many
boomer year too. We're in peak boomer year. We've gone from 10,000 people a day turning 65 to 11,200 a day. So yes, seeing people in bulk is going to be incredibly important this year.
Absolutely. Get them in a room together. Let that social proof of the first couple people that start signing up increase sales for you, and use this as a way to get your message across to a lot of people, be visible in your community, and make sure that folks know you are the person to go to for Medicare and other health insurance needs. With that, we'll sign off. If you need any help or have any questions about the resources we've presented here, you can always reach out to our team, and we'll see you on the next episode.